Jeff Lentz. I'm the artist in residence for the departments of theater and music here at Albright College, and I serve as the director / curator of this project.
I'm Cocol. I'm an artist and I am the designer of this project.
So we have a mission of providing original work on the main stage. We're very proud to say that we've been doing that for over a decade now. Every year, at least one piece in the season is a new work, because it is sort of the lifeblood of the theater. Devised work is an amazing way to get students involved in the process of creating theater, because in this sort of work, you're starting with a blank slate. You're starting with basically nothing, and you're building over the course of a couple of weeks into a piece that has an arc to it, that has some resonance to it, that has some structure to it, and we understand that it's our job to be speaking to the eyes and the ears and the hearts and souls of our audience. Typically, we would be starting with some sort of programmatic theme for an event like this, which we've been involved in the past as well, which is a great way to work, because it just sort of limits us, the sort of freedom within the boundaries of let's make sure that all of our pieces talk about X or Y. This time, we decided to go back to our old roots and allow the free range of ideas to flow within spaces that are sort of instigating the students to think about how light and shadow and color and space configuration and different elements that are available to us in the theater might help spark ideas. It's sort of a backwards way of working design-wise. Usually you have this piece and then you design around it to support those ideas. This is saying, here's the design space, or here's a potential space, here's a potential light, here's a potential look to it costume-wise, music-wise. What comes out of that space? How does it speak to you? And so that's what this was, an attempt to celebrate all of the original music that's being written here at school, all of the spoken word. We were flooded with, every night we're being flooded with new ideas, written word ideas by our students. And then in different teams, we've been getting together and putting together an evening that tells stories through song. There will be lots of music in the piece, although for us, our way of looking at this is to be thinking, imagine that you were at the Friedman Gallery right now, seeing the incredible exhibition that's there, but there's music playing as well. That music is atmospheric as well as sort of center stage subject matter. So there are some completely written songs in the piece. We have 3 guitars, we have piano, we have cello, we have harmonium.
Harmonium, yeah.
We have a sounding bowl. We have lots of stuff. But we're exploring the instruments in different ways. So the piano might be played, it might be plucked. So this was just sort of using sound as a soundscape, atmosphere, aural atmosphere, and then as much as much human voice as we could add to it as well. So it's changing every night.
Yes, because then there's a lot of freedom in that. We're thinking about the song, we're thinking about the movement and about the action and how it can instigate, yes,
and
that's
support.
it. And support whatever they're going to do.
So we did start with sort of an empty space.
Yeah.
Heard songs, heard poems, heard things, and then from that, we were seeing a lot of floral imagery.
Yes. Why did we see floral imagery? I don't remember.
In the poems and in some of the songs,
oh, yes.
there was this seemingly constant talk about nature and flowers and the resiliency of flowers, and so somehow early on the idea of something across the sky seemed like this. We wanted to create a sort of landscapey sort of feel to it. We didn't want to be inside.
Yes,
we wanted to be
to
someplace that was seemingly outside, a larger.
And
landscape.
also, we wanted to do something that resonated with the poster all the way. That way that we're talking about.
So you won't see if you know the poster of the show. There's a microphone, and then there's sort of this landscapey sky. You won't necessarily see that, but you'll see resonance of that with bare bulbs and a lot of. A lot of flowers across the sky, but I think you should talk about found objects and your.
Oh yeah, so yes. For me it's very interesting to find objects that you would normally not use, things that are being thrown away, recycling. I'm very interested in recycling and repurposing materials. So we found out that there were all these publications and brochures and programs that were going to be thrown away, and a lot of them are very colorful. And so we decided to see if we could make flowers with them, which we did, and
60 of them.
60. So we have enough to fill a wall with them. And it's very important for me to repurpose things because if you look at what's around us, it's, we have all these wonderful elements that we're throwing away that could very easily be used for something else. We started actually with cardboard. We went out looking for cardboard in different colors, and that did not work because it was too hard and too difficult to mailate. So we ended up using all the brochures.
How difficult is it to actually come up with a new piece right within the first month of the year?
It's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is, but it's necessary.
Yeah.
Because we need to, especially for the first year students who've just arrived on campus, what better way to make them feel and know that they are welcome, they are vital, we want their energy, we want their talents involved. They've just come off of this very fast-paced 4-day orientation process where they're saturated with stuff about the college, and before they have a chance to exhale, we say, join a show. And they meet the returning students, some of whom will have had this experience already and understand how important it is to get started right away. Because as my grandma says, how it begins is how it ends. And it needs to begin, with this incredible welcoming energy. The doors are open, come in and help us build a piece and celebrate all of the creativity on our incredible campus.
I think it also brings an excitement to it. I mean, I get this question asked a lot. Oh, what is this play? What is this play about? We don't know yet, and I think that puts them in a different place, to think differently, to think about possibilities that they wouldn't have thought otherwise.
I completely understand why a majority of undergraduate theater programs focus on traditional skill sets. Here are the rules, here's the way you do it. And then once you've learned all those rules, now break them, right? The problem is that model isn't particularly germane to this generation of students, and it doesn't always promote a sort of experiential approach to the work of dive in, make mistakes, let's talk about why these things didn't work, let's look at maybe some of the rules of the way we formulate things, sort of beginning, middle, and end narratively, but what if we do it backwards, what if we do this? So in trying our hands at things and celebrating what works, focusing on the challenges of where things may not be as communicative as we wish them to be, for us it's a better learning model. One of the coolest things, I think, is the concept of serendipity. That these accidents happen, and being open to that, letting the pieces themselves tell us how they want to be made. Somebody walks across the stage in the middle of a rehearsal because, oops, I'm on the wrong side of the stage, and it was a complete mistake, or whatever. And we look at it and we go, that's exactly what it needed. Yep. It needed that energy. Like, do that again. You know what I mean? So that's that approach, and it's not. I mean, for us, yes, it is attached to a sort of visual art aesthetic. We began with this team talking to them about the principles of art and using that vocabulary to introduce movement and text. How can you walk like this painting? How can you absorb that color into your poetic imagery, or the figures that are in this? So we had 3 paintings that we introduced them to, and you would think that we would move chronologically from Caravaggio to Matisse into Mondrian. We did it the opposite way. We started with Mondrian. We started with color blocking, and we moved backwards. The way that, maybe that's the way we should be teaching theater history. Start contemporary and move backwards rather than the other way around. So, and we thought, well, this is going to be 15 minutes tops, because they're not going to, they're like, well, I want to be in a show, let's go. Was it an hour and a half?
It was,
I have a question.
They all had questions.
Incredible.
Yes.
And it just sparked all these ideas. Like, now let's take those ideas and now let's go walk like a painting. And and then you throw in different pieces of music, and then that I hear Mondrian in that. I don't hear that. I hear this, and it just sparked their imaginations, and it's our job then to go keep it and repeat it.
Well, that's also we took them down to do some painting as well, to color something that then we were going to cut up and reposition. And that was a very interesting experiment also.
Yeah, and they worked with limited palettes.
Yes.
And so they got to see their finished work, then we cut their work and spread it apart and mixed it around, and then they had a reaction to that, and then we really mixed it all up. And then what happens when this color or this geometry of figure is next to this one and turned around? So it began to build within them a stronger aesthetic for what works and what doesn't, and where is tension and where is balance and where is resonance. Visually, try and translate that to movement and text, and then have all these incredible musicians feed it and fuel it all night long. So I said to the musicians the other day, or to one of them in particular, well, I'm usually the center of the stage. To be like, I don't feel like I'm that. I'm like, well, all these flowers behind you are put together with glue, hot glue. You are the hot glue in this piece. You're the thing that's keeping it together. And they were like, oh, I like that. And so gave me a reason to keep going.
Expand upon the idea about the painting and stuff, because you are getting the students to do things outside of theater to incorporate into what they're doing on the stage. So expand on that a little bit, because I feel like this isn't the first time this has happened, taking them to go paint and then saying, hey, how does this make you feel? And then how does that translate to the stage? Can you expand upon that a little further?
Well, it's mirrored in my coursework with the actors. So the returning students who are seemingly quick at this might be so because they've also had some training with me, and they're immured to the idea that I have to not just think about the right thing to do, but just what my instinct tells me to do. So that, that's part of it. It's in the lessons, in their performance training, and also the imagery that I use in the voice studio as well. But I mean, Cocol and I have sort of a fringe sensibility about things. We would love nothing more than to be able to, even though we love our space and there's a lot of things that are great about it, we would love nothing more than to be able to do a piece like this in the Friedman Gallery.
Oh,
with
yes.
where an audience, or in a variety of spaces where audiences can experience it maybe alone or with some, a couple of people, and not necessarily all 300 people.
And responding to the work.
And responding to the work, right? And then, the experience there is that the students have to do it again and again and again and again, and they learn from the repetition of that. So everything that we do feels more like an installation.
Yeah.
It just so happens that it's being presented in a traditional proscenium thrust theatrical space.
I'm an artist. I'm not really a scenic designer. I've learned a lot about it after 20 years of working in theater, but I still feel more comfortable with art. So I think that's why Jeff and I started working well together, because he understands things through art as well, but he has a theatrical knowledge that I don't quite have completely. So it was very easy. It was a very easy fit to work with him. There's also a lot of respect for each other in what we do and how we think about the work. So it was practically pretty easy. I don't know if I've explained a lot, but we've written 5 plays? Yes, 3 of them without words and music. And that's the other thing, that Jeff doesn't only bring theater, but he brings music into it. And I bring the artistic part, and collaborating with it, we have created our own aesthetic, which is what you see evolving. It keeps evolving. I mean, it's been 20 years and we're still finding new.
That's the wonderful challenge of the work that we do together, is that you're creating the mechanism and the process along the way.
Yeah.
There are certain flowers that were just created a couple of days ago that some new process developed, and we went, oh,
The
boy,
last flower.
Right. Had we known about that process earlier,
Yes.
that could have changed this or that. And so there's always a new method to what we do. Cocol now knows how to build trees out of cardboard, right? But now the project's over.
Yeah.
Right? But it manifests itself into things. Here's an example. When we were beginning Spring Awakening, conceptualizing the production last year, we began with an enormous poppy flower in the model.
Yes.
We always worked with the 3D model. And what we knew we had to have was this flower. Well, before we knew it, it was gone, and
there were 2 insects.
Yeah, and then then we moved through a natural history museum approach, and blah, blah. Again, everything started like installation. But we never throw anything away.
No.
Cocol makes model versions of everything, and we have these boxes that are filled with the ideas. And the other day when I looked at the fact that there's now going to be 60 of these flowers on the wall behind the show, I went, oh, it's the poppy.
It is the poppy.
It's the poppy.
I forgot about the poppy.
We didn't know that we were creating something for the next show. But there's always some resonance, but there's rarely a repeat of the way that we do it. But there is, if somebody wanted to, or maybe if we had the time, you could find the actual thread through all 20 of the pieces and find how they're linked together. even though they look very different. And the other thing is that feels really good is, I mean, you know, Cocol has won national design awards for her work scenically. You know, I've won national awards for the directing. It's not, we're not crazy, at least there are some people going, no, this works, and especially in an educational theater environment, there's validity to this approach. It is hard to teach this approach because you really have to sort of cross your fingers and say, it'll happen. So again, that's why it might, you know, on an undergraduate level, you might not have this sort of work, have this risky work happening all the time. But to me, our job is to encourage everybody who's involved with us to say, you don't need us. Go do this yourselves. And I hope they do.
And I give them the recipe for the glue.
Well, it's order and chaos, always. That's us. Sometimes she's the chaos, sometimes the order, or vice versa. We have to smash things in order to put them back together in a way that resonates with our sometimes shattered lives. And so the theater, particularly today, is such a potent artistic metaphor, if there is such a thing, artistic device that provides the metaphor that we crave to commune together and to celebrate our shared humanity. And so for me as a director, it's about thinking sequentially to offer a story in a way that constantly invites an audience member who's there with us to be invited into the process rather than just sit and receive.
Well, about art and theater, I think art has always been part of theater. I mean, you can't have one without the other in some ways. You can, but I think it gives a place for the actors to exist in that can be unique, or it can be very minimalistic. But it's a space that defines them in the moment, and a space that they have to live up to. I think that's kind of important. I think it develops their characters. Don't you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do. I think our job is to do everything that we can to encourage their imagination.
And challenge them at the same time. I love to be part of that.